this Michigan class action suit by realtors against the Realtor Association is perhaps one of the most significant things going on outside of these class action lawsuits. The plaintiffs say they shouldn't have to join the NAR and other associations to access the MLS, especially if buyer broker compensation is no longer guaranteed via the MLS. What they're saying makes tons of sense to me. I'm a broker and an attorney, and I found those new buyer broker agreements to be so onerous and so one-sided against the buyer that I've got to come up with alternatives inside my brokerage. Luckily, I'm an attorney, so I can cross those things out or make a new buyer agreement that would still be a buyer agreement, and therefore I think at the moment, from what I can tell, would confirm would still work with the MLS rules. But I'm quite concerned about these because it's obvious to me that on almost every transaction where there's negotiating involved, that let's say the seller's listed for the home is listed for 1.1. After 2 or 3 rounds of negotiating, buyer and seller are both in agreement. $1 million is the price, but the seller countered out at the advice of a good listing agent. Hey, I'm not even sure that the buyer is allowed to come back with a counter because that would violate their fiduciary duty if they do. So instead of paying 2%, let's offer them $5,000 or $3,000, so that that even if that buyer agent doesn't want to do the work, the buyer can go out and get a lawyer and feel protected. Because I'm going to advise my clients after hundreds of transactions in my brokerage and many, many hundreds more, probably close to 1,000 where I've advised people on. I know that buyers get cold feet all the time, and all of a sudden they're ghosting you. They're not calling back after inspections come out because they're concerned, they're worried. And if you have someone who's familiar with the process and say, hey, inspectors always find these things. That's their job. They feel like they're paid. They got to find the grading on the side of the house, goes against the house instead of going away. We've seen this before. Yeah, it's a problem, but I wouldn't hold up the deal. Maybe you ask for $200 or $500 to get it fixed. Maybe you don't. You just accept it. Remember, we're multiple offer scenarios, and that's just going to be the cost of buying these homes when they're not brand new. I mean, but they advise the buyer to say these are normal things, these are abnormal things. Buyers want to know that. They want to know they're not getting screwed. And they need someone on their team if you want them to close quick and not ghost you and not hold up the transaction. Because they may have something like 14 days to close. You might have other offers coming in. They're locking down your property. You don't want that. So you want buyers to feel comfortable with your deal. And therefore, I would advise my sellers, yeah, go ahead and counter it down to $2,000 or $5,000, enough to buy a lawyer. But I don't think you have to pay $2,000. Now the ball's in the buyer's court. The buyer, because of these terrible car forms, are like, oh, but if I want to get paid, I'm entitled to 2%. So we're going to have to find you another deal, or I'm going to make this counter. If they make that counter, I'm going to tell you right now, that's a violation of in my legal opinion, that's a violation of their fiduciary duty, unless we can determine that it's just it's a specious counter. It's not really a counter. That the price is locked in and the buyer and seller have a deal, and this is just a quibble between third parties over the price of the home. Frankly, I don't know if that's how people are going to see it. And I think every time a realtor counters after their buyer's happy with the price, they're violating their fiduciary duty, and I know they're going to get sued. In fact, with a little research, I might even say, let's sue those buyers. We got to straighten out the realtors. Now, I don't want to collect money from the realtors themselves. I want CAR and NAR to stop this nonsense. Look, they got themselves into a pickle. They got to go back to the DOJ and say, we're going to put attorneys on all these deals so we can protect against all those problems the DOJ is citing, such as price fixing and compromising the fiduciary duties of the buyers and steering. We've got to put in rules in place to protect against that. But these agreements are unworkable. In the meantime, because I see these buyer agent deals conflicting against the fiduciary duties of agents in California, just go to it's right on, I have it in another video, but you can go to the DRE and look it up. An agent has to put the client's interest above their own financial interests. So every time you got a deal, you're done as a realtor according to California law, according to the Department of Real Estate anyway. So, in short, this is very important because right now the MLS is saying you need to have a buyer agreement and you can't adjust the prices. Like, the logical thing to do is start off, I'll show you around properties and I would like to have you give me a right to negotiate fees with the seller. But again, if we can't get the deal done, I'll help you. All I really need, my minimum pay is $2,000 or $3,000. Enough to pay for a transaction coordinator and reasonable amount for my time. If we can get more, great. But if not, I'll do it for $2,000 or $3,000 like a lawyer would. If realtors can't do that, they're toast. So what's going to happen is as long as CAR and NAR have these agreements in place and MLSs are trying to enforce it, there's going to be lawsuits. As long as these agreements in place, people are going to say, I'm going to have to leave the Association of Realtors and work as a buyer agent under California law and not be governed by these terrible NAR rules. I'm going to be doing more videos on this as this shapes up. But right now, no, this is vital. We can't be governed by these. Realtors cannot be governed by that crazy buyer agent agreement because it rises to conflicts with their clients. It leads to a violation of fiduciary duty. And a listing agent is going to tell their sellers, hey, they can't counter this. That'll lead to lawsuits against them. So just counter it down to zero because we've got no money in there for them. I mean, it's really nuts. It's got to change. I have solutions. I'm going to come up with that over time. But for now, just watch this lawsuit. My name's John McConnin. I'm a real estate attorney and a broker. More information about real estate as a whole will be at winnerscheck.com. Really, that's all we need to know right now. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.